Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank you for calling today's hearing on carbon capture and utilization, and I want to recognize Senator Kramer for his work on the Prove It Act. As I've said before, I want to get things done to solve the climate change problem. Chair Capito and I have worked well together to encourage and expand carbon capture. There is a solid foundation of bipartisanship here. I want to start by establishing the context for our hearing and why carbon capture is so important. We've just come off of Earth's 2 hottest years on record. For years, scientists warned of the perils of exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial norm. Well, it happened last year. 2024 crossed above what science tells us is the safety threshold. This does not necessarily mean that we have reached the point of no return, but it serves as yet another big red warning sign that we are dangerously close. So in this 11th hour, what does the path forward look like? The Potsdam Institute reviewed 1,200 forward-looking peer-reviewed scenarios used by the IPCC to predict our future with climate change. Of these 1,200 scenarios, all the ones that led to safety depended on limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. Now, only 11 of those 1,200 are still achievable. This review was done 3 years ago, so likely we have actually fewer than 11 pathways to climate safety. Those remaining 11 scenarios that give us a pathway to climate safety have 2 things in common. One, they overshoot the 1.5 degrees safety limit, so carbon removal, particularly direct air capture, is necessary to claw our way back. And 2, it just can't be free to pollute. There must be a cost to fossil fuel emissions. These all require a price on carbon emissions. So it's simple. Direct air capture, price on carbon emissions, or we fail. Here's the IPCC. Reaching net zero GHG emissions primarily requires deep reductions in CO2, methane, and other GHG emissions and implies net negative CO2 emissions. Carbon dioxide removal will be necessary to achieve net negative CO2 emissions. To reach climate safety, we must deploy carbon capture, and we are doing it, but way too slowly. In 2015, I visited Saskatchewan with Senator Graham to see the Boundary Dam Power Station, the first electricity generating facility to successfully deploy carbon capture technology. We know this works. It was working there and then. But there are only 45 facilities operating worldwide, with a total capture capacity of only 50 million tons annually when we need to be operating at a gigaton scale. That is, we need to be capturing 1,000 times more carbon annually to find that pathway to climate safety. So I've consistently led efforts to promote carbon capture. I co-led the Use It Act, a focal point of today's hearing, with our current chair and with then Chair Barrasso. I led repeated successful efforts to improve 45Q, the tax credit for carbon capture, with our chair and Senators Barrasso, Kramer, and Hoeven. My federal CDR Leadership Act is being piloted now by the Department of Energy. I've advocated for funding for offices and programs that support carbon capture deployment, including for EPA's Class 6 wells program that the chairman mentioned. Bipartisan steps to support carbon capture included DOE's regional direct air capture hubs and DOE's carbon dioxide transportation infrastructure finance and innovation program. God, we know how to name things, huh?
That is a mouthful there.
Both part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. But we cannot dawdle. We've entered the era of climate economic consequences. Families are paying higher prices in grocery store aisles because climate change is disrupting supply chains and diminishing crop yields. Worse, families are facing a homeowner's insurance affordability and availability crisis. This threatens to cascade from insurance markets to mortgage markets to home property values, and then, like 2008, into the general economy. The more we overshoot 1.5 degrees, the more of this looming economic pain and dislocation. Plus, the added risk of far graver irreversible changes, the collapse of ice sheets in Greenland or Antarctica, mass coral reef die-off, collapse of the Amazon rainforest. It will take direct air capture as well as a price on pollution to pull us back from this danger. The happiest estimates peg the cost of widespread commercial CO2 removal at about $100 per metric ton. This is a negligible cost compared to the costs of ignoring the problem. The Economist says a $25 trillion hit to global real estate markets. Deloitte says a $220 trillion global GDP swing between getting climate right and continuing to fail. The Financial Stability Board has issued a warning to the global banking system of this climate risk. First Street Foundation has found that the climate-driven insurance crisis will erase $1.5 trillion in U.S. real estate value over the next 30 years, i.e. the period of a mortgage that is issued today. So ramping up carbon capture is a step we need to take with urgency, and I'm delighted to join our chairman in this hearing.